Good evening, everyone. Time is 7:06 p.m. I call to order this City Council regular meeting. Now that a quorum is present, everyone please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. And during our invocation is Father Henry.
Let us pray in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good and gracious God, we ask you to fill our city leaders with wisdom, understanding, discernment, and knowledge. Grant them favor, increase their faith, and prepare them to pursue your excellence. Draw them to you and cause them to know and fulfill your purpose. Please place people in their paths that will provide scriptural, sound, and godly counsel, for without your counsel, their plans will go awry. Impart your wisdom and revelation to them about leadership and help them to lead. Deal with our leaders about keeping their hearts and motives pure. We ask you to make their hearts pliable, willing, and obedient to your will. Cause each of their lives to glorify your name. And we ask you, Lord, that our leaders be blessed with great wisdom and understanding, that they may bring healing and unity to our community. May they always seek your wisdom and your guidance in all things. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
All right, you may be seated. All right, we have a couple of announcements and events, and we'll start with those. Miss Yolanda, come on up. Sporting fancy hats.
Hi everyone, how is everybody doing? Yalondra Valderrama, Heritage and Tourist. As you can know, our June is full of events coming up pretty soon. Our first one is actually this Saturday. We're partnering with the Evolution of Health. We're going to do the Manor Community Day and 5K starting at 9 a.m. at Timmerman Park all the way to 1. We will start with the 5K. We will also have some vendors there giving health and wellness information and some screening, and there will be a kids song area where the kiddos can go and play. So basically, yeah, and you can go on our social media and the link there for the registration. It is available. Registration won't close into the day of the event, and you can also register at the event if it's a last minute thing you want to do. Then we have, which I made a mistake and I didn't put it on the agenda, but we have our first movie night out at Timmerman Park, sponsored by Frontier Bank. We're going to be watching Kung Fu Panda, kind of opening the summer with a nice movie. Seating starts at 7:30. Movie starts at dusk. Bring your own chair, concessions. Your pets can come also. Just pick up after them, keeping them in a leash. And just silence your phone during the movie, please. And then we also have our Juneteenth celebration on June 19th, starting at 12 to 8 at Timmerman Park. We have our program already put in our social media with the Juneteenth ceremony. We will have the gospel time and other live performers that will be at the event. We will have food trucks, a kid area with water slides, so bring your swimsuit and towels, and just a lot of family friendly fun. So come and join us. Do you guys have any other questions?
Councilman.
No? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, public comments. Non-agenda item public comments are on the white card. Agenda public items on the yellow card. It looks like we have a mixture of both, so I read both. For non-agenda item public cards, comments on the white card, comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda. They talk to a total time of not to exceed 3 minutes per person. If you fill out a yellow card, agenda item, public comments, yellow card, comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda item and agenda items combined for length of time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person on items. Except for public hearings, comments on public hearings must be made when the item comes up before council and will not exceed 2 minutes per person. No action discussion may be taken by city council during public comments on non-agenda items. To address city council, you need to complete the white or yellow card and present to the city secretary or designee prior to the meeting. And just for clarification purposes, there's you complete either a yellow card or a white card. And we'll give you the one that makes sense for your request and grant those meetings appropriately. All right, starting off, Mr. Bataille, you have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes, Mr. Bataille.
My name's Robert Bataille. I asked for a translator. City didn't want to give me one. Dicen que aman a nuestros hijos, pero los parques están vacíos. ¿Por qué? Tenemos $800,000, $800,000, pero no siquiera no pueden hacer una carrera en 10 años. Tenemos que levantarnos, tenemos que ser fuertes, tenemos que luchar con palabras y amor. Tenemos que hacer un mundo mejor para nuestros hijos, para nuestras personas mayores. ¿A quién le importa de qué color sea alguien con negro, marrón, azul, blanco, verde? ¿A quién le importa? Estas días se han ido. I have a lot of things I'd like to talk about. I guess I have to also talk about why the Austin Bocce League is not being allowed to have a booth at Juneteenth. Juneteenth is supposed to be about the end of oppression, about freedom, equality. I've given more money than anybody to the parks to put the bocce courts in there. I've given more money than all 30,000 people put together. And guess what? It's under $1,500, so don't tell me how great everybody is. A 501c3 is a corporation. It's a person that gets to speak. You missed the abysmal little Parks Town Hall. My God, that was embarrassing. They didn't even know how to spell the name of the park. Timmerman, we've given him like $12 million. They don't know how to spell his name. By the way, the north arrow is supposed to go to the north, not to the west. They were laying it on its side. It's empty. There's nothing in here. Not only that, but they left off about 2/3 of the park. This is the rest of Timmerman Park that they didn't even address in their, quote, master plan. It was a town hall. They didn't even want to let me see my master plan. Why don't you talk about your comprehensive plan? That's what you're supposed to do at Maynard Palooza. But you didn't want to show anybody this. They asked for input on the comprehensive plan. They never showed this to anybody. As if they had, everybody would be horrified. That's what they want Little Person Street to look like. Comprehensive plan. We spent $318,000. They did these little dashboards. Nobody was asked about these. This is the consultant did those. They have 1 dot for single family homes. Old Maynard's a neighborhood. It's a historic district. Did you know, sir, that you've been here almost 4 years? The Maynard history page on our website does not even mention James Maynard. Do you understand that? I talked to someone today. Every day they've been here their whole life. They went to school their whole life here, and they've never heard of James B. Maynard. How do you explain that? I can't explain it. We need to protect our historic district. We discovered the homestead over here. That should be our Alamo. Now, coming up, item 2, the library. You need to recuse yourself on that, Mr. Mayor. You work for the school district. Last year, you gave them $60,000, and you kept our Maynard library closed. That money should have all gone to the Maynard library. It would have jump-started it. Some of this $50,000 you're trying to do today is going to go to non-taxpayers. Shadow Glen doesn't pay 1 dime of taxes to us. 2/3 of those places those school districts is going to go aren't even in the city of Maynard. I'm looking at the school superintendent there, but he's busy reading his email. Okay. That gas station, we don't want diesel. The Planning and Zoning Commission doesn't want diesel. But there you keep bringing it back in. The youth thing, good idea. Pardon me? I'm sorry. Dominion Apartments, glad to hear they're going to put in $178,200 of park fees.
Thank you, sir. That's your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Crystal.
Hello, my name is Krista Swear, and I have a small ranch on North FM 973. I came and spoke to you guys during the May meeting here again. So I have two issues to speak about. One is the stormwater. The second one is the issue we're having with KB Homes flooding my property, Benny Paul's property, and now I've spoken with neighbors downstream who are also getting flooded. So, to stormwater, I've been learning a lot about it because I didn't know it was an issue we were discussing in the city of Manor. Last month, you guys published this information sheet for us to read. It says 1 inch of rain falling on 3,000 square feet of pavement generates more than 1,000 gallons of stormwater runoff. That would be 14,000 gallons of water for 1 acre. For 100 acres, it would be 1.4 million gallons of water from 1 inch of rainfall. Just about every time there has been rain the last few months, it's been a half an inch to an inch of rain that is flooding my property. But back to the stormwater. When you have stormwater, you have two choices in ponds that are developed in these communities and in developments. They are detention ponds, which remain dry, or they are retention ponds, which remain wet. Retention ponds allow for the water to reabsorb into the land where the water falls. This helps to clean the pollutants out of the water. It helps to replenish the underground water that we have. And if it overflows out of the pond, it gives the water time to be clean when it enters into our water systems. I do not have data yet because I have spent so much time on this. However, it would appear that the city of Manor is approving detention ponds. They are dry. They are not beneficial for our environment. They are not beneficial for the people of Manor. When you build a retention pond, you have the time to make it look natural. It becomes a place where people want to gather, and it benefits the city. It benefits the people. It benefits the environment. However, I am betting all of the new ponds in Manor are detention. And just to let you know, if you drive around and look at them, they look institutionalized. They have tall 6-foot fencing around them. They're not a place that children go play or go fish or families go walk around. They are institutionalized and they only serve a purpose of catching water and releasing it directly into the waterways. That is a detriment to our environment, and it's a detriment to the way the city of Manor is growing. I need to have my situation with KB Homes approved to be reviewed because we've been in discussion with Scott I have been in discussion with KB Homes since 2002. I said the wrong date last meeting, 2022. Anyway, we need this situation with KB Homes looked at because they are only doing detention ponds and they are flooding my place and using it as a retention pond. You can see it today, and I have a pond where it was dry before. So I need the city council to approve the research that Manor needs to do to address this issue with KB Homes, and not just the Mustang Valley, but any future developments. You guys need to be looking at what type of ponds. It is your right to make sure that these developers come in here spending billions of dollars, build infrastructure that benefits your city, not benefits their pockets. Thank you for your time. I have communicated with you guys all by email. I am open to meeting with you, and my neighbor Benny Paul is here, as well as the farmer who historically farmed our lands for the last 30 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up is Mr. Benny. And sir, you filled out a white card, so you have 3 minutes.
All right, no problem. I probably won't even take that. So I'm Benny Paul. I've been a resident around here since almost 2009. I'm north of Krista, meaning I'm south of KB Homes and the Manor ISD High School. I also have this farm where I used to have animals before, and my neighbor Doug Fortune used to do this. Ever since Manor ISD built the high school, I saw water flowing in and erosion happening. But it was not at the intensity level at which it is beginning to happen since the last few months, or ever since KB Homes started building roads and started putting the water through the detention ponds. It has created a new paths cutting through the soil, and it is happening every time there is any fall, any rain. Would appreciate if this gets on whatever agenda items, because I don't even see that it is being listed, even though I've been approaching Scott's office a couple of times. I think since the last 2 months or 6 weeks, I've been approaching, and we see no visible action being taken to protect the soil erosion. It's only going to increase. That is my fear, because there are not many homes. What we have today itself is so messing up, and I know that as more homes get built, it will get worse and worse, and there will be a lot more people involved, and a lot of the farmlands around this area is going to have to go through this mess. I hope some action can be taken. We are trying to voice out our concerns in the best manner. We might be left to take a legal approach if we hear nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Mr. Franks. And sir, you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I did have a couple topics that I did want to address. My name is Gerard Franks. I'm the owner of the Lab Barbershop right down the street. And for the past 3 years, I've been putting on a back-to-school haircut bash for the youth, for the community. I've been providing food. Last year, I purchased about 10 pizzas from Domino's to feed everybody. I supply all the drinks. This year coming up, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to make it bigger. Every year we've grown. I know the first year, I think we did about 30 heads. The following year after that, we did roughly 40. And this past year, we did over 50 heads. So as we can all see, it is growing, it's getting bigger. And I want more exposure so we can help more kids, more youth. And so what I'm looking for is to possibly, if we can, maybe block off the streets right there on Burnett and Boyce to Parsons. So Burnett is right here, and block off maybe Burnett going across, and make sure can't nobody come in Parsons because we have a lot of youth walking across the streets. I do want to provide games, maybe bouncy houses if it's not too hot, because they can get a little hot for the kids. Maybe some cornhole for the adults, something just to keep people occupied while we're taking care of the kids. And if we can get the city maybe to provide some tents for us to keep people cool, some big industrial fans or something, I think that'll be nice. The second topic was on the Juneteenth celebration. I know that this year it's on a Wednesday, and typically when we celebrate Juneteenth, it's on the third Saturday of June. And I used to be the program coordinator at our Juneteenth celebrations out in St. John Colony in Dale, Texas. And we would always have it that third Saturday. And everywhere else, they always celebrate on the third Saturday. So I feel like, if we want to get more exposure and bring more people in, Saturday would be a better day to host this type of event versus on a Wednesday, the actual day. And I understand, you want to celebrate on the actual day, but even MLK, for example, that's always the third Monday of the year, and not on the actual day. Thanksgiving is always the fourth Thursday of November, not per se on that day. So I was thinking maybe for next year, if I could solicit my suggestion on that. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. And Ms. Martinez, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Denise Martinez. I live on Tower Road. I'm the neighbor lady to the apartment complex you're going in. A couple of different things. There's some bullet points on one of their things, bullet point 3 and 4 of the building, facing the correct way. It's something y'all require. You asked for it in your zoning or everything that y'all accepted and approved. Make them do it. And then they're trying to knock out 123 parking spots. That's a bunch of parking. Where are they going to park? Well, we all know what the seats and streets in the subdivisions look like. So make them do what y'all require. Y'all have our standard so that our city is nice. And if we keep letting people or developers change our plans, it's not going to be a nice city anymore. So they are also asking that if TxDOT does not approve their street and subdivision, their light in the street improvements, that y'all still approve their development. And but the light and the intersection in the TxDOT right away is what y'all are going to require, and to keep the traffic flowing for this large apartment complex. And if TxDOT doesn't approve it, traffic's not going to flow. And so if y'all can make that a requirement that it does get approved through TxDOT. I know y'all can't approve it, but if it does not get approved, then they need to rethink their traffic. So I didn't do public speaking, so sorry. If you'll, we know it's coming, it's needed, but 123 parking spots is an awful lot of parking spots to 86. And again, where are they going to park? So you have these requirements so that we have a nice community. So enforce them, please, so that we continue to stay a nice community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, this concludes our public comment sections. Moving right along to public hearing. Number one, conduct a public hearing on conduct a public hearing on ordinance of City of Maynard, Texas, annexing 1.22 acres, more or less, being located in Travis County, Texas, and adjacent and contiguous to the city limits, making findings of fact, providing a severability clause and an effective date, and providing for open meetings and other related matters. Mr. Dunlop.
Evening, Mayor and Council. So this is the kind of a remainder tract between two larger properties there, right at Bodark and US 290. It's kind of like a surveying error over the years, so it's very oddly shaped and narrows down to nothing. But it is labeled on surveys as abandoned county right-of-way, and so we're processing this annexation as a right-of-way annexation. So there's 2 public hearings for it. But this is one of the neighboring property owners has requested that we do this because as they develop, they're looking to have shared access across this, as well as at least a wastewater line. And with it being city right of way, it gives us the ability to permit those. Whereas if it's the county right of way, it's a little trickier for them. But as you can see on the map, it is just sort of a remainder portion that really is undevelopable. I don't know that ever actually functioned as right of way. If you have any questions, I could answer those for you.
Any questions, council members? Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 1.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Emily Hill. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir. All right, moving right along to agenda item number 2. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on allocating funds for the summer library program. We have guests here from Maine Independent School District. I'll allow you all to come up now and do your presentation as to how you're going to. Want to address something, just so you know, want to do a little change up to make sure that we have some clarification and the facts that go out to the communication. Last time you came before council, I actually did not vote favorable for the project because I want to ensure that people knew that this was council's decision and not mine. And so to make sure that's clear to everyone in the community, I'm just going to recuse myself, and Mayor Pro Tem is going to facilitate the discussion and work with you all through the presentation. All right? All right, so thank you all for coming.
Good evening. My name is Chastity Hawthorne. I am the secondary math coordinator for Maynard ISD. And
I'm Dr. Robert Shermani. I am the superintendent at Maynard ISD.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Valerie Torres Solis, Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment with Maynard ISD. Thank you for having us.
thank you. And we are here in hopes to partner with the city of Maynard once again. As you partnered with us last year, we are so gracious with that to kick off our summer reading program. We thank you for your support, and we are wanting to continue the partnership for this summer. So the purpose of the program is to increase scholar literacy and numeracy skills, provide a safe place for youth, offer enrichment opportunities, and increase the love for reading in our families. We will be hosting or opening our libraries at 3 locations, and we're going to be hosting over 1,000 students during this time. We will also have our Reading on the Go bus that's going to tour around the community, pretty much bringing the library to the community on wheels. In all, with our partnership with you, the Texas Library Association, and Book Springs, we hope to provide safe summer programming, promote a love of literacy within our students and their families, and then give them an opportunity to grow their in-home libraries, because if they visit the Reading on the Go bus, they can take a book home with them. And then this will also provide scholars with healthy meals. So this will be our 4th year doing this program. Once again, we are very gracious with you funding our program last year. We hope to continue that this summer. In all, we are asking for an estimated cost of $38,900. Are there any questions?
I did have a question. I know your goal in 2023 was to get 400 students supported. How close did you guys get to that number? I don't think I remember.
The campuses that had the libraries open, we need to make sure that we get those estimated numbers to you all. We don't have the exact numbers right now.
All right, thank you.
One of my questions is, how many schools are actually in the city of Manor?
It's easier if I just list them off. Presidential Meadows, Lagos Elementary School. Is Presidential Meadows outside? Oh, there you go. Manor Middle School, Manor High School, Manor Excel Academy, Wild Horse, which is going to be where Manor Excel Academy is.
Wild Horse is going to be where Manor Excel Academy is?
No, other way around.
Yeah, okay. Wild Horse, is that going to be in Wild Horse Ranch or by Wild Horse Ranch?
Up on the hill.
Okay, Wild Horse Ranch is not within the city limits, and Presidential Meadows is not within the city limits, and Shadow Glen is not within the city limits. Last year, I did take my grandchild and some other children to the Reading on the Go bus, and we chased it from one place to another, and a lot of the what I've noticed, a lot of things that are done in the school district are not actually done within the city limits, like the childcare that is provided for students when there's time out from school and things of that nature. A lot of things are not done at Lagos Elementary. And I happen to live over there, and my grandson goes over there. So that's why I kind of have a question about, if we're spending taxpayer dollars, it has to be, you know, we have to prove that we're serving our youth in this community. Because we get hit over the head with that.
Oh, and I agree with you completely. As a public entity, of course, I'm the same way. You know, I have taxpayers that spread out all across multiple jurisdictions.
Way across.
Right, exactly. And so certainly anytime we're going to do a program like this, I think what you really want to hear from us is, where did we serve within the city limits of Manor? And although we may serve some of that in adjacent, I guess, jurisdictions, we want to call it that, and we may have some spillover from city residents, I think the easiest thing for you all is to present to you, what do we do in the city of Manor? And so, sure, absolutely, we can always provide that information specifically, like at those campuses for you.
That would be good, because when the when the daycare programs happen, we don't take them, because a lot of times it's at Shadow Glen or Oak Meadows or Bluebonnet Trail or something of that nature. And so when we're talking about giving money, we need to make sure we know where it's going and be accountable to the people that we serve.
Absolutely. And I think I agree with you 100%. And we can always come back to show you that information. I don't know, off the top of my head, Manor Middle School for sure is one of the programs that you listed there. And of course, we can actually try to find out exactly how many students attended there, as opposed to, for example, I think we're going to have one at Oak Meadows, which of course is City of Austin area.
I just say, please try to do more over here at Lagos, because the kids downtown, it's easier for them to get to and things of that nature. And we'd like to partner. We have no problem with that, you know, but we just need to make sure that we are serving who we represent.
Oh, absolutely. And we appreciate all the partnership that you give us. Lagos Elementary School, noted.
Thank you.
Do you have a motion on the floor?
May I say something real quick, Mayor Pro Tem?
Absolutely.
Just for clarity for the record too, I think the request last year was for $61,000, and the reimbursement that we got for the school this year was $8,600. So I want to make sure for the record that 61,000 didn't go. It was just basically what was provided through their leveraging their resources and what they requested from the city. It's about $8,600 is what we paid to the school for the program from last year.
Any other questions, or can I get a motion?
I do believe that this is a good program, so I would like to make a motion. Oh,
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we direct the administration to utilize the community program account to fund the 2024 summer library program in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Motion made by Councilmember Weir. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wallace. Are there any questions to the motion? Any more questions? There's no questions. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving right along in our agenda. Let's see. Item number 3, second final reading. Actually, let me do this. Item number 5 and 6. Let's jump to that. I know we were, start with item number 5. I know we were going to bring that one up, but I think we are going to need to push those back. So, for item number 5, reconsideration, discussion, possible action on specific use request for one lot on 1.273 acres more or less and being located at 13105 FM 1100 Manor, Texas, to allow for a 14,002 square foot general retail, mixing market building, 6 MPDs, 3 diesel MPDs, and associated parking and drive aisles. Can we have a motion to push that back or postpone?
Mayor, council members, Mayor, you can just ask that those 2 items be pulled because
I'm just using the link they gave me. But
Understood.
we will pull those 2 items. Thank you. And I think you've already talked to the person. All right, cool. All right, thank you very much. It's been pulled. Second final reading, consideration, discussion on and possible action on an ordinance rezoning one lot on 0.26 acres more or less and being located at 310 West Murray Street, Manor, Texas, from single family SF1 single family suburban to NB neighborhood business. Mr. Donovan.
Sure. So this is the property that's adjacent to Mr. Jim's, in between Mr. Jim's and the main ISD police station there, right at Murray and 290. So it was approved at the last meeting for neighborhood business, and the planning commission also had recommended approval of it. The new owner of the property, who has a realty business, would like to continue leasing out space within there for additional offices, and they need a zoned neighborhood business to continue to do that. And so, yes, we are recommending approval.
Okay. Questions? Council members? Questions, comments?
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the second and final reading of ordinance number 747, rezoning one lot on 3.75 acres more or less. Wait a minute,
Number 3. Okay.
Okay, let's try this again. Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the second and final reading of ordinance number 746, rezoning one lot on 0.26 acres more or less and being located at 310 West Murray Street, Manor, Texas, from SF1 single family suburban to neighborhood business.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving right along to item number 4, second final reading. Consideration, discussion, possible action on an ordinance rezoning one lot on 3.75 acres more or less and being located at 14122 FM 1100 Manor, Texas, from single family SF-1 single family suburban to C2 medium commercial.
So this property is a little over a mile north of US 290 on FM 1100. It has SF1 zoning from when it was annexed. That was the default zoning at the time. On our current future land use map within the comprehensive plan, this area is designated as employment center, which is for industrial and commercial spaces and not residential. The Planning Commission did vote 3-3 for C1, so that vote failed, and so when it came before you all, it was approved with a supermajority for C1, and so tonight would also need a supermajority if you wanted to finally approve it as C1 light commercial. The recommendation or the request was for C2, but it was approved on first reading as C1. The applicant, they are here tonight if you did have questions for them. They're looking to do an event center on the property, and under C2, that's permitted by right, but under C1, would require a specific use permit, which would then go back to Planning Commission and to you all for a review, at which point you can have conditions on it, see how the site's laid out, parking, access, pretty much anything related to the property. But yeah, if you have any questions, happy to answer them. And again, the applicants are here too.
I do have a question. Is there a pond on that property?
Believe so in the back, yeah. There's a probably old stock pond or some sort of drainage area.
Okay, is there any intent to do anything with that pond?
I'll let the applicant respond to it.
Hello, good evening to all. I'm a little sick, so I'm sorry for my voice. In the near future, we would potentially like to get it ready for like pictures or kind of events where we would have photographers come by, since we are planning an event center. So just if we have 15s, they can take their pretty dress in the water and kind of have some pictures on there, or weddings, something of that sort.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, Council, I think what we have is a choice of continuing at the C1. I wasn't here, so someone fill me in on, I guess, why we went C1 versus C2.
Because I think we went C1 because C1 has more of I think there's more we can require of them, because there is a landowner that that is right next to the property, because their family member formerly owned the property, and they have a complaint about it being an event center with noise and the parking and things of such, because the event center was stated to be able to house 300 people for an event, and the person that lives right next door to it had a complaint about that. The property owners are willing to do more of a setback than is necessary. I think a 10-foot setback, is it 10 feet?
Uh, yeah, for C1, it is a lower setback than C2, but through that specific use permit, the site could be modified to have a larger setback.
The owner is willing to do like a 25-foot, right? Yeah, 25-foot setback to accommodate the person next door with the noise and all of that other stuff. The venue also at C1 can be requested to have no outside events. It has to be inside events. So that helps with some of the reduction of the noise. So that's why we went C1 instead of C2.
Thank you for that information. What are your plans to have in regards to the commercial, the C2 or the C1? Does it going to C1 dramatically change your business plans?
So this is actually our first event center, and we were potentially thinking of C2 just so we didn't have to wait, because I think there's extra time we need to wait. With the specific use permit, it would take much longer for us to go through that process. So we're not sure of how much longer it would take if we did the specific use permitting.
And then, were you planning to do the activities outside?
At the moment, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How many neighbors came to speak up against or to share that information, Mr. Dunlap?
It was just the one immediate neighbor.
There was one more that came when it came before council. There was a guy that came.
Oh, was it? Okay. Sorry about that.
However, he said that he lived close to the property, but from what I understand, there's not any immediate neighbors other than the one lady that lives next door to it.
Which next door?
Near the back end where the little L shape is. I think that's where she said her house is.
Mm-hmm.
On which property? Back here? This is the property?
I think so. She just said that she lived next door to it, but
The house is
like way in the back.
way in the back.
Yeah, and then some other guy came and spoke up and said that he lived next to it, but I don't believe he actually lives right next to it. He's like a little further away. I was here at the planning and zoning, so I heard both people speak.
Can you talk to us about the differences in the timelines, C1 and C2, or that time gap?
Sure. Yeah. If it's zone C2, as the applicant said, they could just move straight into getting a building permit, a site development permit. It's an administrative process, as long as they don't request any variances. If it is approved as C1, they would have to do a specific use permit, which does require 2 public hearings. We do 2 readings for those, the same as zoning. The time frame for it, because they would have to put plans together, because right now they have some pretty high level conceptual ideas of what they want to do with the property. But for a specific use permit, they likely have to engage an actual engineer to do some drawings for it. It wouldn't necessarily, unless you all requested it, like a full plan set, but something that's actually engineered to show the parking and the buildings and the access and landscaping and setbacks and all that. So that would take time on their end. And once that's prepared, they're required to meet with staff to review that. And if we have any suggestions, we kind of work on that iterative process. And then once we've at the staff level, we feel it's able to be presented, that's when we schedule it for planning commission and city council. So depending on how quickly they can have an engineer draw all that stuff, it could take up to 6 months, 7 months, just because it probably will take a couple months for that engineer to put those plans together. But I mean, if they do it quick enough, once it gets scheduled, it's about 2 months to go through planning commission and through you all as city council. It's just that beginning portion could take anywhere to 2 to 4 months. And then once they're approved, then they could take those drawings and transition to a full civil plan set. And those reviews take anywhere from 5 to 7 months. So, they would be looking at starting construction, potentially 8 to 12 months from now.
Okay, any other questions, council members? Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain the motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the second and final reading of ordinance number 747, rezoning one lot on 3.75 acres, more or less, being located at the 14122 FM 1100, Maynard, Texas, from SF1, single family suburban, to C1 light commercial.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any discussion? Any questions? Any questions to the motion? I'll say, council members, I wasn't here, so I didn't get a chance to participate in the information. But I'm definitely in favor of small businesses, especially when they're choosing Maynard. And we have drought for event centers out here, and a lot of folks have to go outside the city to do things, or they have to depend on Father Henry in the church to do a lot of stuff. And so I would hate to burden a small business that's trying to do work out here in our community with them drawn out process. Like I said, I wasn't here for the discussion or kind of the content about why we went to C1, but I think if it's going to cause an 8 to 9 month burden, that's I don't know if it was discussed or not, but that's a financial cost to a landowner that's having to wait and go through that process to, and then if you have to engage an engineer, that's an upfront cost that you don't want to anticipate out of pocket that can then lead to still a no. Or still more recommended changes and more things that could lead to more costs. And so then we unintentionally shut a business out. When I know, one, it's an employment zone, so it's one of our spaces where we want to bring businesses that's going to employ people, and we definitely want to create happy memories here. So that's my thoughts and discussion on that. So I'll digress on that. All right. Any other questions, comments to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 1, 2, 3, 5, 1. All right. Moving on to number 5, reconsideration, discussion, and possible action. I'm sorry, I skipped that. Yeah. Number 7 is consideration, discussion, and possible action on establishing the Maynard's TML Youth Advisory Commission. Ms. Yolandra and Councilmember Moreno.
Mayor Council, this one was requested by me, and I've been working with Yolandra on this one. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to continue to build those relationships with our local schools. And so, yeah, I mean, Yolanda, she led a successful one in Killeen, so take it away.
Hi. For those one that does not know what TML Youth Advisory Commission is, it is basically a commission that give a voice to the youth in our community within the civic government. It has been established since 1993. From where I'm from, originally in Killeen, they had the first one in Texas. Oh, sorry. But basically, across Texas, there is multiple, almost. I think the last data that the TML posted on the youth advisory, it was that over 75% of the cities in Texas already have one, or they're already in the process of creating a one. So basically, the mission statement of what it is mainly give a voice to our youth. It's not just an area where youth come and volunteer. They actually gain leadership skills that also give them access to how our government works. So for the future, when they grow up and they actually become voting citizens, they actually know what they are into it, how their cities actually work, and how do we get from point A to point B in different areas. They also create activities and engage in initiatives that come from beautification projects all the way to educational, leadership, volunteerism, recreational, etc., etc. These youth also bring input in different areas of the government. For example, in parks, in other cities, their youth advisory commission has a kid that is liaison in a park board, or they call it the park ambassador, youth ambassador, which they bring feedback from their peers, and they hey, my age group will like A, B, C to C, and there is a draw, and they will help spread the word within their peers circle. That's basically my first slide. Again, more of the mission statement on purpose. This is per the actual what it actually it is on the TML website. This is actually the mission statement that all of the Youth Advisory Commission, they also call them JAC. So if you hear me calling them JAC, that's the acronym, and their actual logo is a JAC. So that is basically the purpose and mission. Again, give a voice, give them a safe environment within our civil system to express themselves and make things done. Social, they actually participate on different social, cultural, and recreational activities that meant to empower them in a drug and alcohol-free area. They also all are around 5 core values: empowerment, engagement, youth voice, leadership development, and community service. Those are the values that all JAC groups base themselves into. Basically, how the membership works is they start with grade 8 all the way to 12 grades. The kids will go through a application process. Everybody's welcome. All the kids that will be in the Manor ISD and are resident of Manor are acceptable. Those are TML's requirements. They have to go through that city school district or be resident at that city. Basically, there's 2 levels. There's the commissioner level, which are kids that will come to city council after they go a screenage and they have an interview process. City council will select a specific amount of them, and they will be the voting board in the commission. They will be sworn in a city council because they will be representing their peers, which is their youths. And then we will have the youth resource members, which is open to everybody. These are kids that either they're not commissioners, but they still want to volunteer, they still want to make a difference, they still want to be part of it. And within that group, they have the president, vice president, treasurer, and their secretary. So they actually run like a mini youth council. They go to the Robert Rules of Law order training. They go to the public meeting open acts. They all have to get certified. So we train them as a future civil leaders. That's basically what they do. Should I jump page? Okay. Basically, there are some yearly project that they usually all the youth advisory commission run into it. They do leadership workshops. They actually partner up with the special needs projects. I know in Temple, the one in Belton and the one in Killeen, they do the Special Olympics. They also we have something called the Global Youth Service Date, which is on April. It's something that is across the world. They submit a project that make a difference in their community, and they compete for grants, and they showcase all what they have done. Sorry. They also have youth conference, fairs, and summit, which they do have a TML Youth Summit. It happens on April. I did hosted one in Killeen in 2022. It was during the freeze, so that was very entertaining to last minute changes. But we hosted over 300 kids came from all over Texas to Killeen, so it brings tourists to the city. Whenever we get to the point to actually host a summit, all our kids go to those different cities where they mingle, they network, and they grow. And it's just like a TML summit that we go on October, but this is the Youth Summit. And there are other projects, just environmental projects, health and wellness, mental health, etc., etc. Their skies is the limit. And there are some photos here of some of the projects that have been done in the past. Some of the things that these kids actually do. Yeah, some other photos there. And basically, what do a youth advisory commission will do for Manor? Again, it will give a voice to our city, to our youth. It will develop and enhance leadership skills. It will serve as a safe and encouraging networking environment for our kids, and it will also create volunteer opportunities for them. Do anybody has any questions about this? How it works, or any direction for staff? I was playing around with graphics, so it doesn't have to be, but I was just playing around with graphics if you guys approve it.
How much I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How much conversation have you had, if any, yet with the school district?
It has not been yet. We are basically per TML. We cannot be recruiting or putting anything there unless it's approved by our city council body. I had mentioned it to our fine arts director there because we're trying to partner up to have the school bands and groups to actually be part of our events more, and we can partner more with them. I mentioned it passing by, but I cannot be openly selling this program into our city council actually adopted.
Yeah, so this was presented so that way, we can get some feedback or, see if there's any partnering or, any other questions, ideas.
Okay, and if you can actually find out also how that would work in reference to some of the student councils.
This run completely independent from student council for schools. This is completely under the city government. It does not.
Right.
It does not. When we were at Killeen, we did have kids that were at school in their city councils, but they also serve in the youth advisory commissions. Says they are not related whatsoever to one or another one.
Right. I understand that. I just want to know if there, and I'm not speaking a partnership, but I'm just speaking as far as presenting something like this as an idea to student councils, so that even they can independently show some kind of interest of the program as well, if they know it's out there.
You're talking about on marketing and after an approval.
Right, right.
Oh yes, definitely. There is a marketing plan which I didn't brag because it's not fast separate, but I have a marketing plan that covers from just like we do with events. These will have their own marketing plan. The kids, we need to this basically is selling it. We will be recruiting that is what we would like to see if we get some direction from council. So hopefully when the school year starts now again, we will probably start doing recruitment over the summer, fully go into recruitment season as soon school starts, when we can go to PT meetings, start putting the word out there, do open houses with them, trying to bring them and showcase this project within our youth community.
Thank you.
I was gonna say that thank you for bringing this because I think it's an excellent idea. Because of my job, I talk to a lot of kids all the time, and they would love to have an opportunity to learn more about city government, to learn about how to engage the community and so forth. And so I think it's an excellent opportunity to build something with our separate from the school district and or the city is creating leaders, young people like the guy down there. Because I mean that's the goal. Is that we're building future leaders to replace us. And so thank you both for putting this up on the agenda for today. So I do want to see, I guess when we talk about next steps, right? Definitely talking about the rollout, the budget costs. There's a lot of things on there that we could be the yearly projects initiatives. I'd like to maybe start with just some few targeted things that we can do really well, and then kind of add, and then maybe see if we can solicit good partners, community partners that can be somewhat supporters of part of the process to help you along the way. So is it just the two of you all? Y'all have anyone else that's working with y'all?
Well, I was asked by Councilman Mr. Moreno to bring it out since I have experience in it, but we have just talked to him. Mr. Moore, I send it all to Mr. Moore, the package as well. But for all this, there is a rollout plan as well, which include partnering it out, looking for expansion, community partners, and places we will go and recruit. Definitely the Youth Advisory Commission is something that we want to make sure all the kids are represented well, and not all of these projects will be, we just want to roll out with a couple of them, since there's a lot and it takes a lot of time to fully build it.
And in light of the conference you was at, the seminar you was at the other day, maybe go ahead and determining, finding out kind of what that social media presence needs to look like for cybersecurity. Because in my mind, I'm thinking there's going to be some awesome TikTok things happening. But the whole cybersecurity thing. So seeing how that can seeing if we can find a workaround, because for that, because that's where kids talk, and so there could be some awesome things that can happen in that space.
We will talk to our IT guy, but based on government, we cannot have a TikTok. Based on, but even this group cannot have a TikTok. This group will only have as their branding and marketing as Facebook and Instagram, a Twitter, a LinkedIn. Those are the only approved government social networking boards per se. But the Youth Advisory Commission, Maynard Youth Advisory Commission cannot have their own TikTok, unfortunately. Even so, we know it's a very drawn in that generation.
All right. Yeah.
I would like
figure that one out how to
how to stop them
not
from
on
doing it.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilman.
I would like to say that I highly approve of this. I was slated to go to the one she did in Killeen, but then we had the freeze, so I ended up not going. And I tried to go, I think, to the one last year, but there was a scheduling conflict, and I haven't made it to one yet. So I've been trying to get to one to see actually how they function, to see some of the projects, to see what has been going on. And y'all know I'm a big proponent for the youth doing things in the community. So I highly recommend that we do this.
There is in your package, there is the magazines from the past, the little page on the magazine for the past since 2022 youth summits. Little bit is, but it's 3-4 days of intense work, leadership, workshops, a lot of fun, and it is an amazing experience. Hopefully we all can go next year.
Aaron and Yolanda, I wanted to just say just a comment. I think it's great. I love the whole idea of the youth being able to know that they can affect change in their own community where they live. That's very exciting. I would have definitely been on something like that in my youth, and I think Aaron probably would have been on something like that.
Yeah,
To
definitely.
gear him up for that. So thank you for coming up with this and bringing this to us. This is great. I love it.
Yeah. And I do like to play with how you're playing with the current branding. So
Yeah.
But you guys going to at the end, you guys going to approve later on the logo, so open minded.
all right. Any other question, comments, or motion? Yeah, so I think it's a direction in there about a certain line item or something, because it has a blank in there. Yeah.
Council members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney, Mayor and council members. One of the suggestions that I would make is it could come back as a resolution where you actually adopt a program with the background for it, the actual program itself, with everything that is going to be expected, everything that Yolanda mentioned, including possibilities of approval of a logo, and also like when you were talking about social media, all of that content being provided, if that's okay with city staff.
Okay. If you're trying to start by August, that means y'all need to be back here in July.
Yeah, hopefully it gets approved even early. That way we can also use our current summer events as a marketing base on it. Just let me know to come back.
First July meeting. I'm talking about the first one. Yeah, because then if you're prepped and ready for maybe a yes, looking at the for maybe, then you could use the 4th as a kickoff.
Of course.
If it was a yes.
If it was a yes, yes.
Council members, what y'all think? Okay, so I think you're asking for direction, so that's the direction, and you said bring it back as a resolution. Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, moving on. Number 8, consideration of special possible action on ordinance amending, replacing ordinance 724, setting the compensation for mayor and members of city council establishing procedures and forms for receiving compensation. Mr. Moore.
Ms. Rivera. For the quick audience.
Okay.
Apologies. Oh, thank you. Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney, Mayor, council members. What you have in front of you is the ordinance where we're amending the previous ordinance that was adopted regarding compensation for mayor and members of city council. If you recall, this was brought to you last city council meeting, and there were edits that you asked your city legal and city staff to make to that ordinance. A red line has been provided. All of the edits are included, including the last item that was provided during the last council meeting, which is provided in section, let me just make sure I've got it. In section 5 of the ordinance, and it's I believe it's highlighted in blue. Thank you. So if you have any questions.
All right. Y'all had this last week, so any questions, comments, or a motion?
I'd like to make a comment about why our meetings, our committee meetings and things change from 6 to 4. And it is because sometimes with the processes that we go through for each committee, it's not necessary to have as many meetings as we had slated to have before. It's not that we're not doing the work, it's just that it's not requiring as many meetings as we had slated it to be.
Other comments, questions, or motion?
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 745, amending and replacing ordinance number 724 and section 1.04.003 of the Code of Ordinances to set the compensation for the mayor and members of city council, establishing procedures and forms for receiving compensation.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Hill. Any questions to the motion?
Can I make a comment?
Mm-hmm.
Also, each member up here has the right to say that they do not want to receive this. So to let that be known, and not every member gets every tier each month. So the amounts that you see, we do not get the full amount every month because it depends on what we are doing within each month.
All right. Any questions to the motion? No questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item number 9. Consideration, discussion, possible action on the development agreement, establishing development standards for Tower Road Apartments. Mr. Dunlop.
Sure. So this development agreement, it's with the project that the city has partnered with for the PFC over there by Stonewater up on Tower Road. So this development agreement, it sets some certain development standards, such as concurrent subdivision review as they go through platting, so it expedites that. 40% of the facades for the buildings would need to be masonry. There's a sort of a detention pond area on the property that does hold water, and so to have that amenitized, the agreement says they have to put a fountain in it and a little 6-foot concrete trail around it, so it's more of an amenity for the residents. But it also includes provisions, as were previously discussed, to reduce the amount of parking to 1.8 per residential unit, which is a typical ratio that we actually hear. That's actually been previously approved. So actually the other PFC project the city has, the Avalon that just started construction, they're at 1.8 spaces per unit, which was approved, I think, for variance a couple years ago under our old parking rules. But yes, the developer had actually originally requested 1.5 spaces per unit. We increased it to 1.8 because that is a number that we typically hear as a balanced amount of parking. So that was sort of what was negotiated. Tiny font. And then there's a slight change in the roof pitch, which is pretty inconsequential. They'd be a slightly lower pitch instead of 6 to 12, it's 5 to 12. There was the primary facade doesn't need to face the public right of way. If you look at their site plan, actually, and they are here, this is provided. The public right of way is only at the bottom there, at their narrowest frontage. And the way they have their building set up is there's a clubhouse and then the two narrow ends of two of the apartment buildings. So there really isn't that much actually facades of buildings fronting public right of way. Most of it is all internal and doesn't face right of way. So that provision was also, in staff's opinion, not very impactful given their current site layout. They also reduced the buffer yard on the northern property boundary. So just north of them, just off this image here, is a large detention pond for for Stonewater, excuse me. So there aren't any residential houses back there directly. There's Tina Haraway and then houses on the other side of that. but it is just a large open space that would be undeveloped. So that buffer yard was reduced from 25 feet to 10 feet, but the amount of planting, like evergreen trees and shrubs, was not reduced. So they still would have to plant the same amount of trees, but it allows them a little more space on their property for their parking. The property boundary on the eastern side was unchanged at 25 feet. So the Denise, who previously spoke, that's where she resides, her property. So that remains unchanged for that buffer there. There is a reduction. We do require, if you do have surface parking between one of the main apartment buildings and a residential use, that to further buffer the multifamily use, you have single-story garages, and that was removed. So they don't, believe, have any sort of enclosed garages on this property. It's all just open surface parking. And so typically that eastern property boundary, again, next to Denise's property, would have had single-story garages in addition to the buffer yard, the 25-foot buffer yard with plantings. But those garages were removed. But again, the trees are still there, the fence is still there, the masonry fence, which is in this agreement also discussed as Fencecrete, which is an approved masonry type of fencing. And then there's some existing vegetation that they would like to remove in the buffer yard area. And again, if there's existing vegetation, regardless of the species, our code says it should remain. Just that way, if you already have an established tree, even if it's a hackberry or chinaberry or something that our code doesn't say is protected in any way, just because it's an established tree already providing that buffer, our code says, hey, you should keep it. But their request was to remove those, but they would still have to go back in and plant, again, all the evergreen trees that are required under the buffer yard standards, which is, I believe it's one tree for every like 20 feet or 25 feet, with like 4 shrubs. So it's a pretty dense amount of landscaping that goes into buffer yards to actually make sure there's an effective screen as they grow in and develop. And then one of the last requirements, code modifications, was that they didn't have to have maintenance drives around their detention areas, which that's not a city requirement. So this agreement would just confirm or affirm that that isn't a city requirement. That comes from Travis County. That's typically, you'll see that around their water quality ponds and Travis County detention ponds. That isn't part of our code. And so you'll see detention ponds that get built in the city here don't have those maintenance drives around them, unless we update our codes and modify some stuff, which is coming down the pike at some point. But right now, that was something that would not be required, but we are actually saying to have a 6-foot concrete pathway for the residents.
Scott, is this the one that was gonna have issues connecting some of that buffer yard because something was in the middle? And they were gonna have to like go to a certain point and then cross it over and go to...
No, that was the Presidential Glen storage unit. That one's still being worked on. But yeah, that was a different project.
Can you speak to the text dot piece?
Oh yes, I'm sorry about that. So this agreement does require, as they presented to you, the traffic improvements with the signal, the realigning of Suncrest and Tower, so the intersection works better for how traffic currently moves through it. And then resolving the drainage issue and adding a turn lane at their primary entrance there on Tower. And so it says that those improvements are required. However, there is the caveat, which was mentioned earlier, that the signal does require TxDOT improvement. It is 973, that's their road. If for spacing requirements, they say it doesn't meet it, there isn't too much we can do. We can have that conversation with them about maybe having non-standard light spacing. It was when the signal went in at Tinajero, the spacing between Tinajero and Suncrest met their requirements to have a signal there. They've since updated their requirements, so signals are supposed to be spaced out even further. and so now that spacing distance is too close. So maybe under the new rules, TxDOT may say it doesn't work, but we can have that dialogue with them of why it's necessary and important for our traffic and helping Tower Road function.
On that one, is that portion of Tower Road where people come out and then make that immediate turn to get on the road, and people are like crossing over each other, kind of?
There's at Tower and Suncrest, because Suncrest kind of loops around and has a very odd angle. So part of this is reconfiguring that. So Tower into Suncrest is more of a straight road, and then Suncrest coming up like after, if you're heading north away from Compass Rose. It's more of a standard intersection where the stop sign is there on the people heading north on Suncrest, and anyone heading on Tower towards 973 would have a better, more logical path through that intersection. And so that alone would help the traffic. And then if they're able to have the signal at 973 there, that would further help.
I
with
would
the
say at least
turning
stop
movements.
signs, because I drove that one day and that's a hot mess right there.
Yes.
And that does need to be fixed.
Yeah, and we would work with Travis County on that because that isn't the county. So we would work with them with the developer on how they permit that through Travis County. And then the last portion in front of the property, that section of Tower was annexed when this property was annexed. So that is the city's. And so where they're proposing the turn lane and expand the culverts, that could be part of their site plan as they develop, because the city would have that authority.
Okay, that would be nice. Because that's that one intersection is hazards waiting to happen.
All right, so what I hear you saying, and thank you for going through the lesson and also addressing comments for our resident earlier, is that there's a full intention to do that. The only reason why it wouldn't happen is because TxDOT says no, and there's nothing we can do about that. Do we have a plan for conversations with TxDOT in regards to that? Y'all want to come up?
They may know.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, good evening.
Good to see you guys back a few months later than I thought, but still happy to be here. Yeah, that's the plan. We're actually sort of kicking our design into full gear, and we're going to be having a meeting with them pretty soon to coordinate that. It's our full intent to do it. The provision is just in there as kind of like so we don't back ourselves into a corner when we're trying to line up all the financing. And then it's like, we have to show our lender a building permit, but TxDOT won't approve our traffic light. So we can't show them our building permit, and we're left hung out to dry. So that's why it's in there. It's just as a protection for us, but it's our full intent to do it. And we'd work with y'all if there's some sort of issue with TxDOT. So, but we should know more next week too. We're having our kickoff meeting with them, but our engineer's telling us it should work. So.
I'm sorry, what is the plan if TxDOT says, yeah, no, we can't put another light there?
You can't speak at this point, but I will allow you to come and ask one question. You can come up.
Hi, my name is Denise Martinez, and it might be an engineer question. What is the plan if TxDOT says, yeah, no, I'm sorry, we can't have another light, because they are back to back. So are we going to put a few extra lanes? How do we do it? Otherwise, this traffic will already backs up past my house, so it will get worse. So what is the plan? Thank you very much.
Hi, Andy Graham with Kimley Horn Associates. So we do have a TIA that's into the city for review that goes through different traffic mitigation measures. And if TxDOT does deny our ability to construct a turn lane or a traffic light where we want to place it. I think at that point we would look at our traffic counts and see what other traffic mitigation measures we could come up with that TxDOT would approve.
I think what Andy is saying is the city has to approve the TIA. So if it, it's a recommendation of the TIA, TxDOT comes back and says they can't do it, then as part of approving the TIA, we would revisit the conversation. Plus it's already budgeted for. It's in the budget. We're doing it. Yeah. So.
Okay. You want to speak to what I had more, or you?
TxDOT in the past has been amenable to our requests. Over on the Manor Crossing development, the signal that's planned to go in at Manor Commerce, which is the intersection with 973 and that development up there just south of like the K-8 school, they had originally not wanted a signal there. They didn't want it to be a full signalized intersection, but the developer and the proposed tenants wanted it, and for safety, and we knew that with the Manor Commons Phase 3 coming, that was going to be a 4-way. And so we got with TxDOT and said, this is important to the city, and so it's part of it. The same with the light at Tina Harrow in 973. That began with a request from the city, and TxDOT had initially said, hey, this is a little too close to the Greg Lane signal, but obviously that light went in. So TxDOT they listen, they understand. So I think if they initially just say, hey, this doesn't meet spacing requirements, they in the past have listened to us and approved non-standard spacing.
So sometimes we're faced with situations where we can't give guarantees, but we do have a good relationship with TxDOT. And I would say personally, each month it gets better because we're probably talking to them probably every other day for all sorts of streets and highways and trying to get some relief on 290 and 973 anyway. So it's what we have a good relationship with TxDOT, and they value our relationship with them as well and our partnership. So can't give them guarantees, but what I hear y'all, they're committed to making it safe. And that's the most important.
That's not. I don't doubt that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
what if? And there's a big what if, because as Scott said, there's a big what if, because like Scott said, they didn't want to put Tina Harrow, but they did. They didn't want to put the Commons, but they did.
Yeah. And it's going to be, you won't get a definite answer because we went through this with all the other ones. And the reason why, and there's code. And so the code says it could be a possible no. And that's what they're saying. And so, I mean, just like we have a major grocery store coming and everyone said, oh, you won't get it, blah, 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 blah. So there's always what people have to tell you as a precaution. However, because of the relationships and because of the conversations that happen between the development entities, can't say 100%, but we know that stuff is happening.
Yeah. And I know they want it because it's what's best. It works best for them. So but what if?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for voicing. No. Thank you.
I didn't have more to add, but I'm happy to answer questions.
I'll just have you come back up for questions from council members.
No, I would echo Mayor what you're saying, and our ongoing relationship with TxDOT is to always point out the safety concerns and the volume that's coming our way. So any measures that is different, but they still at the end of the day, they have to look at what's safe for our residents. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can continue to emphasize is safety, and we don't want our process to be overlooked for not emphasizing the safety piece, and I think all the checks and balances in place with the TIAs and everything else associated with them studying it will at least allow the decision to come down to safety is important for us, and I think that's what they'll look at the end of the day.
Other questions, council members?
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the development agreement establishing development standards for Tower Road Apartments development.
Well, motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesmer. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? All right, being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Number 10, consideration, discussion, possible action on City of Maynard deposit agreement for the proposed water service transfer for Tower Road Apartments development.
Sorry, I was ahead, so I was asking Veronica. So this is our standard water deposit agreement. I think you had one or two on the last agenda, and there's two on tonight's. This is just a deposit agreement that will cover primarily legal. It generally isn't engineering costs, but any costs incurred by the city for the transfer of the property from Manville's water CCN to the city's.
Questions, comments?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the City of Maynard, Texas deposit agreement for the proposed water service transfer for the Tower Road Apartments development and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Emily Hill. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on agreement for billing and collection services between Travis County and the City of Maynard related to the new Entrada Glen Public Improvement District.
Mayor, council members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. This agreement is with Travis County. City Council has seen these before when it comes to PIDs and collection of assessments, so that the city doesn't have to be the one collecting assessments. This will go on the Travis County assessment bill. And we do have to enter into an agreement, a separate agreement for each PID. Entrada Glen PID is now in the process of going to bond issuance. And so P3 is your PID administrator, is the first one to contact Travis County. And they provided this contract, which is similar to ones that we've had before. And then once you take action on this agreement, it will go to Travis County Commissioners Court for their review and approval and execution.
All right, questions, comments, council members? Question, comments, or motion?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agreement for billing and collection services between Travis County and City of Maynard related to the new Entrada Glen Public Improvement District.
A motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration, discussion on possible action on the ordinance amending the Maynard Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Article 8, 7.000, utilities and service charges and fees by establishing stormwater drainage fees.
We made it. This is potentially the last time stormwater is before you. It should be. Yes, it's been about 2 years that we've been working on this process. So it's been pretty great. So the last meeting, of course, you all approved the ordinance creating stormwater as a utility. We had an open house yesterday. We're gonna have another one on Saturday morning on the 15th, so June 15th. So if you'd like to come out and hang out with me on a Saturday morning and chat about stormwater, you're more than welcome to. This ordinance sets the rate that has been discussed throughout this process, and that was originally modeled. So it starts at $6.50 per ERU, which is the equivalent residential unit. So one house, technically 2,730 square feet is one ERU, and so that's $6.50. So every residential home would have on their utility bills a $6.50 charge each month. And then for commercial or non-residential, so it's commercial, multifamily, industrial, they're based on their actual impervious cover. And so we've mapped all of those properties and determined what their equivalent residential unit is. And so they have a multiplier. So if they're, 27,000 square feet of impervious cover, that's essentially 10 ERUs. And so they would pay $60.50 each month. So it's pretty simple math. And so that this ordinance just simply sets those two rates. And then on the admin side, with the finance director, the utility billing clerks, they're going to spend the next 2-3 weeks entering everything into the system. So that way it's active for our July 1st billing.
How does this impact? That's my question. Detention ponds, catch and release, and all that, the flooding that can happen during construction.
During construction, it wouldn't apply. That would be on the developers to maintain their proper drainage. And so our MS4 inspector, he goes to sites at least every 2 weeks, and then after every storm event of 1 inch or more of rain, to verify that the erosion controls are still active and that there aren't any issues. So with this, the one we heard about tonight, back a few months ago, there was an issue, and our MS4 inspector, Gonzalez, he did go out and issue a violation. That was also when TCEQ issued one. KB Homes dewatered a pond incorrectly, which released a lot of water faster than it should have been. And that case was closed with TCQ and resolved. But yes, when things are under construction, it's on the contractors, on the property owners to maintain it. And then this fee, it only applies to what the city maintains. So our bar ditches here, all of the curb and gutter and all of the streets and the subdivisions, certain detention ponds within subdivisions. Now as subdivisions are growing, for the most part, we don't want to maintain their drainage. So we're putting it on the HOAs, and so the newer ones, how they get mowed and function, it is on the HOAs per their plats or various agreements. But the city still has quite a large drainage maintenance obligation. So again, anything that's leading up to those detention ponds that are under the streets that you don't see, all those storm pipes, those are the cities.
Yeah, and which brings me to a workshop we had a while back. We were talking about economic development, and we were talking about ensuring that developments maintain themselves. And so just if you all can bring us back some options or a plan that addresses maybe coding economic development or a policy that ensures that when developers are building neighborhoods, that it takes care of itself in regards to cost. So like if, because what I hear you saying is, and what we're doing is we're catching up for a lot of old stuff, but also we're going to be maintaining things because maybe in the past neighborhoods may have been built and they don't generate enough revenue from the property taxes to cover the maintenance of that neighborhood. And so what that basically does is it requires the city to keep doing things to generate revenue, because now you got to go back and recover here. So if we can work with, the team, the Scots, with Matt and everyone to kind of look and see how we can have some type of policy or design that ensures that when new neighborhoods come in, I know we got stuff that's already started, but anything that's coming in new, that we can look at how to ensure that it's going to be self-sustaining, that it generates enough revenue and has enough flow and design to take care of those costs. Because I know we did a lot to get to this point to fix drainage. But my hope is that at some point in time this can go away because things are fixed. We have equipment, we have staff, and the team's happy, but we're also building neighborhoods in such a fashion that the costs take care of itself, and so we don't have to have an additional fee. So I definitely understand we're fixing things, but so we don't have to keep fixing things. If you all can bring something back to us before we start doing newer neighborhoods. You know, I know we got stuff that's already in motion that may be past the point, but anything that hasn't gotten to that point where we can, you know, have conversations about, you know, solutions so that someone's building that neighborhood and it's done in such a fashion that it generates enough income to be self-sustaining in those areas. I think that would be maybe something we'll be interested in just learning about and seeing if anyone has it out there, because that's what we learned, that small, that economic thing, and you know.
Yes, and that is on our radar. It actually, that land use fiscal analysis that Verdunity does from that I just mentioned, that's in this year's budget. But with the number of projects I haven't put the RFP together yet. But there really only is one company that does it, but I put an RFP out. But that is very high on our list of things. I'm just trying to work through some of my existing projects before I take on some other ones. But it was funded this fiscal year to do that land use fiscal analysis. At this point, it may carry over into the next year. Those analyses don't generally take too long, but we're a little more than halfway through the fiscal year. But that is something we want to do to inform how our development code is written. And then in addition to having the downtown strategic plan, going to be wrapping up here, it's probably halfway through, but a couple of months, and then the comprehensive plan being approved in 2022. So our zoning code was completely rewritten in 2020. So a lot before the current market and current situations, but then obviously before the comprehensive plan. So our zoning code, even though it's only 4 years old, needs some updates to be in compliance with the comp plan. And then having the downtown strategic plan also inform how the zoning and our development codes get updated, and having that land use fiscal analysis again adds more information into how our development codes can be updated. And so I would like to basically create a unified development code as we update everything to the comp plan, the downtown strategic plan, this land use fiscal analysis, if that is finally approved, to achieve what you would like to see, and having communities that generate tax revenue that is more supportive of the costs that they incur.
Questions, comments?
I have a question. At this current time, who is responsible for the upkeep of the bar ditches downtown, in the downtown, downtown neighborhoods?
Technically, if you read the code, it's the property owners who are in front of it. They maintain, not just mowing too. It really actually says they're supposed to maintain the drainage, but that, in my time here, has never really been something that we've required, just because you can't maintain a 50-60 foot stretch of drainage, because it is a whole system. And so if your area isn't draining appropriately and you regrade it, it kind of just goes to the neighbor, or it doesn't work. Like, you have to have the whole system. You have to figure out your high point, your low point, and regrade appropriately. So when we did a bond back in, I think, 2016 to do Bastrop Street, that was basically the whole street from the north all the way down to like Parsons got regraded. And so, but right now it's our streets crew to the extent that they can, but it's very minimal. But again, property maintenance, or the bar ditch maintenance, is actually on the property owners, but we don't enforce that.
Okay, because I have seen exactly what you said, where one person's taking care of it and somebody else isn't.
Yeah.
Going down, and that's mosquito traps,
Mhm.
and you know, it's a hazard.
Yes.
Other questions, comments? All right. Take a motion.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number, am I on the right one? 11 or 12? 12. Okay. That we approve ordinance number 748, amending Manor Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Article A 7.000, utility service charges, and fees by establishing stormwater drainage fees.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Questions to the motion? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a comment. For anyone listening to this or watching this segment of council, this was something that council sincerely took to heart because we also have to pay these fees. So please understand that it was not something that I think we decided lightly. We had a lot of conversations about this because we have to pay these fees too. So all of us are in the same boat.
All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, sir. Move right along to your next one. Consideration, discussion, possible action on the Fourth Amendment to the Development Agreement under Section 43.035 Texas Local Government Code with Jefferson Triangle Marine LP.
Sure. So this property, it's a 60-acre tract right at the southeast corner of US 290 and Old Kimbrough. It was zoned probably 2 years ago now to townhomes and C2. So there's a 10-acre tract of C2 medium commercial at the corner and then about 50 acres of townhomes. There was a plan to build 335 townhomes on the property. Because of the market, that project hasn't gone through. But the property owner is still interested in bringing the water to their property because they got decertified from Manville. And so they are on the city's water, but the water line is on the other side of 290 on the north side. And so to help, because that sale fell through, they're still looking to market the property and they want to market it with water and, take that cost on them and, have it as a marketing process. And so because the developer or property owner wants to do the water extension now versus the townhome developer was originally conceived, we're updating the development agreement for oversizing because as previously studied, serving water to that property required a 12-inch water line, but because we know of the future development south of Kimbrough, like the Manor Springs project, some industrial developments, just that area is growing rapidly. Even on the water master plan, there's proposed to be an elevated storage tank over there. Engineers recommend a 16-inch water line to make sure that we have sufficient flow and capacity. And for that, this agreement has the city paying for the oversizing. So the developer would pay the base cost of the 12-inch line and the city would pay the difference to upsize that to a 16-inch line. This is actually, it's pretty standard. A lot of our agreements include this language. If it's not part of a CIP line, then we can't require them to install more than what's required. And so if a 12-inch is required, then that's all we can legally say they have to build. But if we partner with them on it, in like this instance, we can upsize it to a 16. And that saves the city money later, saves other developers money. If, they go to develop and the line's undersized, they don't have to go back and dig it up to upsize it to a 16. It would already be a 16.
Okay. Questions, comments?
With that future growth in mind, is there a provision to try to make it where it'll be 16 going forward?
Yes, it would continue to be. There's another entity that actually wants to bring it further down Kimbrough to their proposed project, and it would be the same thing. So if their development agreement comes before you and they require only a 12-inch line as well to meet their flow demands, within their development agreement would be a provision for the city to upsize that to a 16. Unless I don't know that the time to work on this, but if we get back into updating our water and wastewater capital improvement plan, and part of that plan could be putting a 16-inch line on Kimbrough, then with it being a CIP, the city could require that it be installed that way. But timing-wise, that takes quite a bit of time to go through the process with the Community Impact Fee Advisory Committee. It's kind of a months-long process. So if the other developer who's doing that line extension gets ahead of them, it may be again oversizing on the city's behalf or costs.
How much money is this gonna cost
It's actually, I don't have the dollars. They'll have to provide engineer costs, so they'll have an engineer establish what the base cost is to bore under 290 with a 12-inch line, and then they'll do the same thing for a 16-inch line, and then they find the difference, and then our engineers review it to make sure that the numbers are appropriate, and then they have that. But it's a really small segment. It's really just the bore under 290 to get to their property, and that's all they're doing. So it's not millions of dollars. It's not that. It shouldn't be that much.
Other questions, comments? I'll entertain the motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Fourth Amendment to the Development Agreement under Section 43.035 Texas Local Government Code with Jefferson Triangle Marine LP.
A motion on the floor by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there any questions to the motion? Any additional questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on resolution of the City of Maynard, Texas, approving and authorizing the Maynard, the Mustang Valley Public Improvement District Financing Agreement. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, council members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. This agreement is with, it's for KB Homes. They're the ones that are building Mustang Valley. And you had previously approved a public improvement district on this piece of property. And as part of it, we have also done a reimbursement agreement. So this is the continuation of the documents that will start coming to you till we get to bond issuance. And so this is the finance agreement that covers assessments. And we do have bond counsel who worked closely with developer to provide additional information and specific information on the finance agreement if you would like, and also to answer any questions.
Questions? Comments? Council members?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-17 of the City of Maynard, Texas, approving and authorizing the Mustang Valley Public Improvement District Financing Agreement.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
A second.
Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on New Haven Development TIA phasing agreement with Great Lanes Development LLC.
Sure. So this phasing agreement is a similar format to the one that was approved for Lagos a few years ago. And so it provides for when their TI mitigations will be constructed and when TI mitigation fees will be paid to the city. So in their first phase of the construction, they'll install turn lanes on Greg Lane at their driveways, their roads that they'll be constructing. Once they get to their 134th lot, which is the first lot in phase 3 of 4, as currently platted and going through platting, they'll be required to pay the remaining funds to the city, which is just a little over $610,000, which will go into the city's TI mitigation funds to use within the area generally for mitigations. And then when they have a, actually, I don't think there's any exhibits on this, sorry. When they construct the commercial, they have a 2-acre commercial site within the development. When that develops, it has a driveway into it, which will have a turn lane. And so when that property develops, another turn lane will be constructed on Greg Lane.
Questions, council members? Have they made any movement towards the idea for that commercial?
Not that I know. There's a representative here on the engineering side, but I haven't heard any things with the commercial. Neither is the engineer.
Questions, comments, council members? Darren, I'll take a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the New Haven Development TIA phasing agreement with Greg Lane DEB LLC.
Well, motion on the floor by Councilwoman Mesper. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Consideration, discussion, possible action on the City of Maynard, Texas deposit agreement for proposed water service transfer for the 14704 US Highway 290 project.
This water deposit agreement is in the same format as the one you just had earlier on tonight's agenda. And again, it just covers any city legal and engineering costs related to the decertification from Manville and coming into the city's water CCN, or for them to be able to serve by city water. And this property, apologies, is over near Kimbrough and US 290. So just a little bit past Carillon.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the City of Maynard, Texas deposit agreement for the proposed water service transfer from the 14704 US Highway 290 project and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Watts. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesper. Any questions to the motion? We're just talking about up to 5,000.
Yes, that's what the initial deposit is.
Okay. Questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Number 17, consideration, discussion, possible action on the resolution granting consent for Wilburger Creek Municipal Utility District Number 1 to serve water to an area within the corporate limits of City of Maynard, Texas.
Sure. So this it is a temporary mud service. It's not on a permanent basis, and so this is for a proposed lift station in the Okra development, which is the property immediately north of Shadow Glen. So part of the wastewater plan that's for the Okra development, Monarch Ranch, and New Haven, there's a big 15-inch gravity line that'll be along Wilbarger Creek until it reaches a point where there's a lift station, and then it has a force main over to 973, where it'll connect into some existing, or I think they extended a 15-inch wastewater line there a little bit. But the lift station is really far back off 973, almost to like Wilbarger Creek. And so there's not any direct access with any city water lines, but it is adjacent to a water stub that is with the Municipal Utility District, because Shadow Glen is right there. There's a street stub out. And so it's much cheaper and easier and convenient for them to connect into the MUD service on a temporary basis up until the Oakwood development builds out to it, and then they would switch to city water. And this resolution is necessary for the MUD to approve the service. And again, it's temporary, and a lift station uses very little water. And I do believe the Monarch Ranch they would be paying for it. Sorry.
That is correct. We'll have the developer pay for it. However, we will be coming back to you with an agreement that will be between the city and the MUD, because it will be a public facility. The lift station will be. So within that agreement, or we will have a separate agreement that the developer provide the funding for this temporarily. So we will be back. This is the beginning of the process.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions, comments?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-18, granting consent for Wilbarger Creek Municipal Utility District Number 1 to serve water to an area within the corporate limits of the city of Manor, Texas.
Motion for by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Wares. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Acknowledgement the resignation of Planning and Zoning Commissioner Cassandra Hardiman, place number 3, and declare a vacancy.
Yeah, Commissioner Hardiman, she submitted her notification that she would like to resign, and so we just needed a vacancy declared so that we can post and bring new applicants to you all at a future city council meeting. I don't know if that would necessarily be on the 17th, might be July 3rd, but
motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that the City Council acknowledge the resignation of Planning and Zoning Commissioner Cassandra Hardiman, place number 3, and declare a vacancy.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on canceling the June 19th, 2024 regular City Council meeting and setting a called special session. Council members, we have a proposed date of Monday, June 17th instead of June 19th at 7 p.m. I wonder if there's another opportunity, because I can't make that. I would like to be here if possible. Come on up.
I don't know who wanted to discuss it. So we had discussed the 17th, the city manager and us, and we've sent out notifications for public hearings already. So that date is set.
It's set.
I don't know. I don't know how to handle it if it's not.
The dates are set for public hearings. However, it is up to council to determine if they would like to keep the 17th, of course. And if not, then we would be having to re-notify.
Was there a time that was also notified?
Yes, it's just your standard 7 p.m. time.
Does the time matter if the time, so if you change the time?
Mm-hmm.
According to state statute, it requires a time be provided in the notices. So yes, the time does matter.
Councilman, questions?
What day were you suggesting?
I didn't have a alternate date in mind right now. I was thinking probably either the next day or later that evening. So typically entities in the same area try not to have big meeting nights on the same night. So school district has board meetings on Monday nights, and so that people can participate in those opportunities. They're different ones. So, but I'll defer to what is best for what you all think in that matter.
Mayor, council members, one of the things that you could do is actually post it for 7 o'clock. Just hold your public hearings and then not go into what's the word I'm looking for?
Recess.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You could recess.
Are we still having the housing meeting at 5:30 on that day? I had something on my calendar that said Maynard Housing Public Facility meeting at 5:30.
I have it on my calendar.
Gregory, because I was going to tell you I'm going to get here late. For
Yes, I'm sorry. PFC is at 5:30, and do know we already I think there's about 30 items for the 17. Staff is we've pushed the agenda. Not the agenda due date's still the same, but for staff review, for agenda review, those are being moved like 2 weeks in advance. We just reviewed June 17. The reason I had emailed everyone or put it on the calendar, just because of the notices of the public hearings. That's the reason. We normally always request the Monday. Definitely can be changed, but just do know if it's recess, just know how many items are on the agenda.
Yeah, because I think I did send y'all a message about that Monday one as well, the public facility as well.
Can we do it the next day?
They're saying that they would have to resend out the public notices if
10
No,
business
you can
days.
do the public hearings that day, but you can't do the. You have to do the public. You can do the public hearings on. You still have to do the public hearings, or you have to do it all over. But you could just do public hearings that day,
Public hearings.
correct?
On the action
And then do
items.
the rest the next day.
Well, I'm only bringing it up because I can't be there on that day, on the Monday.
We're getting shorter and shorter.
For the notices, like to resend them out, like we wouldn't have time to necessarily re-notify. We do them 15 days in advance, at least, and then with the newspaper only publishing on Fridays.
Mhm.
So really, any of the public hearings, if they weren't held on the 17th, likely would all have to go to July 3rd, and that would
Well, I'm
just
saying it sounds like the possible solution, from what I'm hearing, is to have enough for a quorum to do the public hearings.
Yeah.
And then do the and then possibly have a meeting on the next day. Yes, ma'am.
Again, you could, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney, you could recess for a few hours or you could recess until the next day. If you'd like to do that but you would still need a quorum on the 17th if you wanted to meet
That's what I
the
mean.
notice requirements.
But
Yes, sir.
we can just have public hearings on that day and then choose a meeting for those 30 something items on the Tuesday when we know everybody can be here.
That's why I was saying that you would set it for the 17th,
Mm-hmm.
but then after the public hearing, you would recess until the 18th. So you wouldn't set a new council meeting for the 18th. You were just recessing the 17th until whatever time you wanted on the 18th.
Oh, so it's all in wording.
Okay.
Okay, so Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, you will not be here on Monday. So we still have a quorum. Okay, so what about the 5?
I'll be here. So
Well, we don't
How
know
many
if
public hearings do you have?
Councilwoman Hill is going to be here at that time.
No, how many items? I can't remember in top of my. Yeah, we don't know what Councilmember Hill
I
is
mean,
available for.
Will
Could
there be a
she-
Weir
quorum
would be
to
here
do the
for
public hearings and the action items?
I think Weir would be here for that time. She just wouldn't really make it for the PFC.
Yeah, we're talking about two different things. We're talking, so I think we have a solution. My understanding for the other one is the 4 people will be here for the other piece, but now we're talking about the housing one. And so we may not have 4 for that.
For the PFC? Okay, well, we're just gonna have to get with Gregory. He's the
Yeah.
one that requested.
Does that impact any of the 34 items?
No, that's
Well, it
totally
wouldn't matter if
not
they
that
go
I'm
to the
aware.
next day.
No, I'm
Got it.
not.
So we got a solution. Yeah. So we need a motion.
So is it moving forward to have the meeting on the 17th then?
Yeah, that's what I believe is.
There's a
meeting
quorum?
on the 17th.
Recess
at
until-
7. Recess until the 18th. PLC starts before.
If you, well, if you have a quorum, you could continue your meeting, or you could recess until the mayor comes in later on. You said you had some availability Monday or not at all.
Yeah, but I don't know what time we're going to finish. And then you still have Mayor Pro Tem missing, and we haven't talked to Councilwoman Hill.
Sure. Understood. Understood. So, city secretary is asking if you could have 2 meetings, and
That's what I
yes,
was-
you
that's what I
can.
was meaning earlier.
Yes, you can. You could have an agenda for public hearings on the 17th, and then you could have your next meeting on the 18th.
Okay.
Just recess it.
No recess.
No recess.
No recess?
No.
2 meetings, and then and then we would need to.
Is everyone available on the 18th?
The 18th.
Okay.
So then
7 or but Mayor Pro Tem, you would be here on the 18th. Yeah. So you'd still have potentially more than a quorum, because I'm seeing 5 people would be here on the 18th.
Correct.
Right. But to start the meeting.
Okay.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a recommendation that we cancel the June 19th, 2024 regular city council meeting and set a special called session for Monday, June 17th, 2024 for the public hearings at 7 p.m. And also set a special called session for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Got a good motion on the floor by.
And it's a
Councilwoman
motion.
Wallace.
It's a motion. Not
Oh,
a
I'd like to make a motion then.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That we
Yes,
do
ma'am.
all of that.
By Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Motion passes. Yeah, so if we, in the future, if we can make sure we check those schedules and then try to do other days as best as possible. Definitely not Mondays, and as best as possible not Tuesdays either, but definitely not Mondays. Those.
Yes. Come.
All right. Moving right along. Thank you all. All right, City will now convene into executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551.074 personnel matters to deliberate, to talk, to deliberate and discuss the duties of the finance director. Sections 551.071 and 1.072 Texas Government Code, and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct. Consult with legal counsel to deliberate the real purpose of real property, and Section 551.071 Texas Government Code, and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct. Consult with legal counsel regarding Shouter Glen Plat. Right. City Council will now reconvene to open session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter Texas, excuse me, Chapter 551 Texas Government Code and take action if any items. If any items discussed in closed executive session, there are no items. This meeting is adjourned.